The reason my teachers at Harvard couldn't teach me Marxism was they had learned early in their careers to keep as far away from all of that stuff as possible. When I was finishing my PhD at Yale, I was called in by one of my professors, the famous man. Some of you may know his name, James Tobin, a very famous professor, got a Nobel Prize in economics. Called me into his office, worked with him, and said to me, Rick, you know, this political stuff you do, it's going to destroy your career. And to make it real tangible, he said, I won't be able to write letters for you. That's how you get a job. If you go to the Ivy League, when you're done, you get a PhD, your professor writes a letter or makes a phone call, and then you get a job. Other people have to submit documents and give talks and have a resume. I never did that. I went once to Johns Hopkins, where they wanted me to go, and I went to Johns Hopkins and I gave a talk. And the professor said, are you ready to give your talk? Yes. He said, you know something, but how about let's have a drink instead? Okay. So we went to a bar, we had a drink. There was no talk. I got the job offer the next day. Other people do that, but people in the Ivy League don't do that. That's not how this country works. So when people in this country get interested in socialism, each time they have to rediscover anew that this is a big, fat tradition, been around for 150 years, exists in many forms, many articulations. It's a rich tradition of criticizing capitalism. In its name, some people have gone beyond criticizing capitalism to try to create an alternative. That hasn't been so successful yet. But that's not so surprising because the project wasn't the alternative. Marx didn't believe in that. It was the critique of what exists. That's Marxism's strength. And if you're a critic of capitalism, and let me remind you, in the last 3 weeks, both Gallup and Harris, two major polling companies in the United States, have issued the following result. People 40 years of age and younger in this country are roughly split 50-50 in their preference for socialism or capitalism. 2.5 weeks ago, I did an hour-long program on Fox News devoted to capitalism versus socialism, where they invited me and a young African-American woman from the DSA, the Democratic Socialists of America. Very articulate, very good. You know, the two of us were the socialist side, and sitting next to me representing the other side was Herman Cain. That's right. That's right. That's right. The 999 man who kept repeating the same story. If you go look at the clips, that socialism has never worked anywhere and capitalism has always worked wonderfully everywhere. He repeated that. You're not dealing with a full deck here. He doesn't have it. But the fact that he could say it, and he says it with real confidence and with conviction, he really does, is because he must circulate in a place where no one ever questions any. You can say this, blah, 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 and everyone nods, and so you're emboldened to say it, even in there in the public where people will realize what a moron you must be. And the others were the same. I mean, he was a bit out front with it, but they also paraded through to debate with us. Lou Dobbs, Neil Cavuto, Stuart Varney, and a woman who had only one name, Kennedy. No one identified her as having I don't know if Kennedy was the first name, the last name, or whether she doesn't need two names like the rest of us. She was the worst. She was a libertarian as a whole. Anyway, so this book is written because Americans are now asking in huge numbers, what is this? What is this Marxism? No, but my heart sinks. My God, 2019, and you're asking a question, what is it? Right? Where have you been for 150 years? Right? Did you have a long nap? What is this? On the other hand, I'm elated because they're asking a question. That's 9/10 of it. The answer is easy. It's to getting you interested enough to ask the question that matters. And the book is selling. We produced this ourselves. We didn't go through a regular publisher. I published a lot of books regularly. And the book is selling because there's interest. There's interest trying to figure it out. Young people particularly, but others too, are trying to figure out what's wrong with American capitalism. And if you're going to study what's wrong with the system we live in, capitalism, which is now global, sooner or later you're going to come to Marxism. There's no way to avoid that. It is the single most developed critical tradition of capitalism there is, period. It's not the only one, but it's the one that the most number of people in every culture have developed their thinking around, have developed their tragedies and their successes and their failures around, practical ones, whether it's to make a revolution or organize a union or have a strike or whatever it is that people do. This tradition of Marxism, with its many different formulations and different strands, including many that don't agree with each other at all, it's the single most developed repository. To become a critic of capitalism and not engage Marxism, that's crazy. That's like saying I want to go into the woods and make a nice fire to cook something, but what's this silly crap about matches? I mean, you could take the stick. There are other ways. But, you know, people have developed the stick, the match. It goes in your pocket. Doesn't weigh a lot. It'll save you one hell of a lot of time. Marxism is that. It won't answer every question, won't solve every problem. Not at all. And there are mistakes and screw-ups all over the place. But it is what we've developed, the most sophisticated development in the history of the anti-capitalist movement. To not engage it, to not learn it, to not milk out of it all of the insights that could help take us to the next step, that's nuts. That's not smart, that's stupid. My education was defective in the United States because my teachers were afraid. They didn't reject Marxism, they didn't know what it was. They knew it wasn't safe. They were just scared. And they didn't have the decency to admit it. Would have saved my generation a lot. Okay, you're scared. Tell me why. They would have told me why. I don't want to lose my job. I understand that. I get that. Okay. Instead, I'm angry. You didn't teach me things I should have learned, and you didn't have the decency to tell me you were too afraid to do it.